Ladies and gentlemen, there's no better way to get up in the morning than to get up with Garret. Garret is a third-generation, success-credentialed real estate entrepreneur who is here to give you tips, tricks, and share stories of success. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Garret Bedrin.
Hey, Dougie.
How are you?
All right. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can tighten up my headphone jack. I'm feeling a little bit in and out there.
Yeah, a little in and out. All right.
It's good to be alive. It's good to be here with everyone. Really appreciate you getting up this morning. We're off by a day. Had a doctor appointment set up yesterday. So I appreciate everybody hanging out for Friday morning. So last I saw you, I was headed off to New York City for a Knicks game. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know, getting back to like networking again with colleagues and lenders and investors and friends. And it was just kind of like a sense of normalcy, right? To be out there with other people, talking business, having fun, letting your hair down a little bit. And it was just a great game. Actually, the Knicks were super close to the Bulls that last minute. I think they were down 19 and came back and were tied the game with a minute left. So it was really cool ending.
Nice.
I had sent you some information earlier about big news in Greensboro. There had been a lot of talk about this mega site that for those that don't know that maybe haven't followed the show recently or just new to the show, our family invests a lot of commercial real estate in North Carolina. So we're really big in Greensboro, in Winston-Salem, in High Point. These areas are called the Triad. And it's just an incredible growing market where a lot of people are moving to. And so people always say to me, you know, they'll say, Garret, why do you invest in the Carolinas? Well, it's not so difficult. Where are the people moving to, right? And where's the action? Where's the jobs? So we finally hit a tremendous gain. We've got a huge company coming. Toyota just announced that they're going to build a over $1 billion battery plant. So this is for EVs, for Toyota and Lexus. They're going to spend over $1 billion building this plant at what's called the Greensboro Randolph mega site. And they're going to have close to 1,800 employees in the first phase. The second phase could have even another 2,000 employees and another $1 billion of investment. And this is a site that I know the governor of North Carolina, all the different folks from the council and the mayor of all the different towns throughout the Triad area were really working for a number of years to try to land this type of catalyst, right? This type of driver with a major company. So hats off to them. They had a huge press conference. I know I had probably sent you some photos, Dougie, about the Toyota press conference. And
yes, let me pull that up.
If you have that, you can show that. But this is just huge news. I mean, first of all, this puts the area as like a leader in tech in terms of the future. You know, getting involved in a company that no, that's
no, it's not.
Sorry,
it's not that one.
So yeah, everybody was out there at this tremendous announcement, and so not only does it put Greensboro, you know, on the map from a jobs perspective and kind of people moving to that area, and that confirms kind of our investment thesis for the past 12 years or 13 years. But now Greensboro becomes a leader in this kind of innovation and tech world, and saying, you know what, autonomous driving's for real. Cars are going to have batteries, right? Electric cars are for real. And we're going to be making them down in Greensboro. So I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing.
Absolutely. It's better than relying overseas for anything like that. Nice to have it at home.
Exactly. And so that's real cool. The other cool thing, I wanted to do a big shout out to my wife, Jess, for setting up the merch. You know, we've got some new Get Up with Garret merch.
Wow.
I don't know.
See it.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Is that live?
Yes, it's live.
So we've got the first one of one T-shirt, and if anybody wants to know how to convert this to an NFT, I would love to learn as well.
Oh, we can help you out with that.
We could auction that off.
Yeah.
So,
we're heavily investing in our NFT knowledge here at Unfreedom Media.
Shout out to Ryan Bergman from Broker Bergs. He loves to have some merch too, and he's working on some merch. So
nice.
We'll see what he thinks about the new T-shirt.
Mark wants one.
Yeah.
The comment section's blowing up. People want these shirts.
You got it. I mean, look, you want to wake up with a Get Up with Garret shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, so that was cool. So we talked about going out a little bit and the merch. And you know, the other thing that I just want to mention, then we'll start and actually bring in our guests because we got a great show today, is inflation. Inflation's big, man. I don't know if you've kept up with the news and whatnot, but it just got announced this morning, 6.8% is where inflation is. So
Yeah.
typically, when you and I are kind of going through normal business
Mhm.
markets, inflation is, anywhere from 2 to 3%, you'll hear.
Yeah.
So now when, we've all been seeing the price at whether it's the gas tank or the milk carton or, the Jordans, whatever it is. I mean,
Yeah.
everything has gone up in price. Now we're getting some more, obviously, evidence on paper. But this just leads me to explain to you, because I know
Yeah.
you're interested in real estate investing.
Yeah.
And I view you, Doug, as kind of the audience, right? You're an up and coming entrepreneur. You're building this media company, and you want to learn about different structures and strategies and businesses.
Avenues to invest in.
Of course. So this further supplements or supplants the need to invest in real estate and diversify, because real estate, by definition, is somewhat of a hedge against inflation, right? You can have leases that can have annual increases to match inflation. And as your cash erodes in the bank, if inflation goes up and things cost 6, 7, 8% more a year, your cash becomes less valuable to you.
And real quick,
go ahead.
So let's hit these bullet points. So like, if inflation's going up 6%, that pretty much cancels out your interest rates of 6%.
Yes. So you're saying if you made 6% on a stock, right?
Yeah.
But inflation went up, right? That would be a net of zero.
Yeah,
exactly.
And not. I mean, you'll still have more money, but the money's worth less value.
It'll do less for you.
So it'll be like you had the same amount of money.
And I'll get you even. and unfortunately, if you want to be even more depressed about that, add in taxes, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, you're getting
losing money.
You're losing money. So, you could even make the argument, Doug, that the store of value of something like a Bitcoin or gold or other currencies that are store of value are a hedge against inflation as well. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Bitcoin start to really go back up again. It had come down off the highs of 60,000, and I think it's been the past 2 weeks around 48 to 50,000. I wouldn't be surprised in the next 2-3 weeks to kind of get back to the mid 50s. Because I think you're going to see a lot of people push that hedge of inflation argument. So anyway, I want to get right into our show today with our special guest. We are fortunate to have an incredible young man on the show, Adam Pogoda, from his family business, the Pogoda Companies. And it's a small world because Adam's dad went to camp with my uncle. And so we were chatting over the holidays about different guests for the show. And I want to give a big shout out to my uncle Jeff Slater, who has his own website and company. It's called themarketingsage.com. So without Jeff, we would not be able to bring Adam to the show today. And if you have any questions about brand building or learning about Jeff's experience in marketing, he's been with incredible national brands like Slim Jims, and even had his own brownie brand for 30 years. You can always reach out to my uncle Jeff, and happy to chat about marketing. He's got a little email list that he puts out. So he's the marketing sage. So without Jeff, we wouldn't have met Adam and his family. And Adam's like me, I'm third generation. He's second generation.
Nice.
And his family invests in self-storage projects in the self-storage industry, which is an avenue for commercial real estate, and something that, frankly, I need to learn more about because I'm involved in that now.
Yeah.
So, Adam, if you can put down the green M&Ms and the caviar and join us live on the show, we'd appreciate it. How you doing this morning?
Doing well, guys. How are you?
Awesome. We appreciate you coming on with us today. So let's just do a quick overview. Let's talk about the company. I think when we talked yesterday, did you say you have 60 locations now in 4 states? Did I get that right?
Exactly. Yeah, we picked up 5 properties on Tuesday, actually, and getting close to 60. It's been a busy fall, to say the least, or winter, whatever it is right now.
Incredible. All right. How was your week, Doug? He picked up 4 new self-storage.
Not as good as that. Not as good as that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a crazy week, man.
Yeah.
I mean, thanks for making the time for us.
Sure.
I know you've been busy. So let's just talk about, for the audience, because my audience is up and coming entrepreneurs that are looking to get, tips and tricks and kind of understand from an entrepreneurial family or an entrepreneurial person like yourself, what it takes to get through the grind, what it takes to build a business like this. But I also want to educate them on the self-storage industry as a whole, because I think that's something that still is not really well known there's a lot of people that drive around the highways and they may see kind of an older, exterior rundown, something on the side of the road, and they may not necessarily think that's an investment vehicle, or they may not necessarily think it's such a beautiful looking, building. Can you kind of help us understand, what is self-storage? What's the industry like today? Just give us a little bit overview of what is it as an investment platform as well.
Sure. So storage has really, in the last 10 to 15 years, become really an accepted like food group within real estate, just like multifamily, office, retail, hotel, et cetera. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that wasn't the case. Lenders didn't feel comfortable, lending money on it. They're like, oh, all your tenants are month to month. How do I know that your facility isn't going to be empty in 30 days? So it's taken a long time to, educate the financial and capital markets about the business. But it's been around for, 50, 60 years. The first facility started popping up in the 60s. Anything built between like the 60s and 80s is what we call like the first generation storage. And that's what you're talking about, those, long, buildings with just, a bunch of garage doors. And
yeah, they go on forever.
They go on forever.
Right.
Yeah. And, the interesting thing about storage is every year, more and more Americans are using the product. So now, 11% of Americans have a storage unit right now. Oh, you guys cut out.
You're good. You're good.
I'm good. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you froze for a second.
It's just me.
Okay.
Keep
So,
going. You're good.
So 11% of Americans have a storage unit right now. And 5 years ago or 10 years ago, that was like 8%. People buying all this stuff on Amazon and the shipping, it's only really helping our business. And honestly, the pandemic, which for so many people, I was on a storage call a couple of days ago, and they added a D to, the reasons people need storage. It used to be, I don't know what, like death, divorce, debt. And now the fourth D is becoming displacement. And the pandemic has made a lot of people move, whether it's moving back in with their parents, moving to a place like North Carolina, where I know you're investing. People are just needing more and more storage because of, their changing lives right now. And I think,
So that's the
yes.
4 Ds. I don't want you. I don't want you to jump over that too quick. Let's review the 4 Ds, because it sounds like this could be a nice clip. So people like investing in self-storage, Adam, because it's something that occurs during death, something that occurs during divorce, when they go into too much debt, and then displacement. Those are the 4 Ds of self-storage.
Well, somebody was joking on the call yesterday that the displacement is now the new fourth D. And I think those other three are right. I feel like I change them all the time. But unfortunately, if your grandma passes away, generally people have to figure out where to put their stuff. All these, if you unfortunately have to give your home back to the bank, sometimes you have excess, and we joke a lot of times that, our property managers are kind of like bartenders. They're, like psychiatrists, psychologists, where, they're, the best time to, be using storage is like, hey, I'm building this new house. I need to store some stuff for a little while. But unfortunately, a lot of the times people are storing stuff for less happy reasons. So, our good managers they're like bartenders in that way.
Yeah. So it's like, look, divorce obviously makes total sense. Death makes total sense, because when someone dies, it's tough, right? You've got all those incredible memories, and you've got albums, and you've got pictures, and these tokens of affection, and you don't want to get rid of that stuff. You're not sure what to do with it, but yet it kind of is put onto somebody else, right? And well, I don't have room in my house to carry all that stuff. So that makes sense. The debt's interesting, because I think you were mentioning maybe from the side of, if you took on too much debt and unfortunately it didn't work out, maybe you lost your house or whatever, a lender needed to rent the unit. But I think as a society, we go into debt to consume a lot of things, right? Which is certainly, good for a lot of my retail customers when they rent from me at the shopping centers, but it's probably not a great thing, right? Living within your means and living, a lifestyle that you can afford certainly is kind of the hallmark of good, healthy investing and building wealth generation. But I think people definitely in this country are obsessed with taking on credit card debt to go buy, the big screen TV or that new couch from, my friends at Ashley Furniture or whatever. So I think it's so interesting. And the more of that stuff you accumulate, right, you got to put it somewhere. And space is a premium. All right. I mean, if you live in New York City, you're spending, $5,000-$6,000 for this 800 square foot 1-bedroom apartment. Well, would you rather rent a second bedroom for another couple $1,000 a month, or do you want to just go rent, a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 20 for, $200 a month or 300? I mean, obviously the prices are going to vary in every market.
It's a bit
So I
higher than
get
that
that,
in New York City.
right? Oh, probably way higher in New York City, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
And
okay. So that
Manhattan mini storage just sold for $3 billion. So clearly,
3 bill. That's
yeah,
B with a bill, everybody. Can you
Wow.
hear that? That's 3 billion. So the self-storage business is for real.
In New York City,
Yeah, that was a
a
group.
one unit.
No, the portfolio, right?
Oh,
no,
gotcha.
I think it was 18 or 19 properties.
Wow.
Absolutely
Big
incredible.
sale. It's
Yeah.
interesting. The family that sold it, they got into the storage business, I don't know, 40 years ago as a covered land play, thinking, all right, all of our stuff's on the outskirts. It's on the West Side Highway or wherever, like kind of out of the way. In 30, 40 years, we're going to convert this to apartments or office or whatever, because nobody really thought storage was kind of a real asset class. And now, for a lot of those locations, storage is the highest and best use.
Incredible.
And
So what does that mean for
huge,
my
huge
audience?
numbers.
When you say a covered land play, explain that
Yeah.
to the audience, what that means.
I mean, I think that the easiest way to think about a covered land play is kind of like a parking lot, right? So you've got this piece of land. It doesn't really pencil to build an office building or an apartment building or whatever you want to build, but you think, hey, I'll rent this out as parking, cover my real estate taxes and maybe a little bit more. And then in 5, 10, 20 years, when that market's ready, you go build whatever other type of asset.
Gotcha. So that's a good explanation. I look at it the same way. I kind of feel like sometimes I'll look at, and I'll explain it the way I kind of understand it. And I think we're on the same page. I'll look at a shopping center, right? And maybe I'm buying the shopping center for $60 a square foot, but yet it's 20 acres and the rents are pretty low. I feel comfortable that the tenants are going to stay. It's a growing area, but I know that long term, there's much, much larger value. And to your point, a higher and best use is a phrase we all use in the industry. If I were to knock down half that shopping center and build self-storage or build apartments. So I look at that and I say, you know what? It's making 10% on my money, but it's kind of a covered land play, meaning it's already been improved, right? Like raw dirt that has no utilities, has no approvals. That's expensive and that's riskier, right? And I don't know how long that'll take to make me money. But a covered land play could either be a parking lot that makes me money at day one, or it could be an existing structure and maybe it's just a little older, a little tired, and the rents aren't at the top of the market of what we'd call the highest and best use. You agree with that?
Right. For sure. And I mean, storage in general was really viewed as a covered land play for many, many years. I mean, most like generation 1 and 2 storage facilities, they're by the railroad tracks, they're off the beaten path. And people viewed them as, hey, well, this will make me a little bit of money until I can build something better. And over the last 10, 15 years, all of a sudden you have storage on high streets in kind of main locations because again, 11% of Americans use it. And your best storage facility is the one that's the most convenient to, your home or work where you can access your stuff pretty easily.
How far, Adam, will someone go for storage? Like if you look at the fitness industry, people don't want to drive. It used to be up to 15 minutes to go work out. Now that's obviously become much tighter. And with boutique fitness, you're seeing all these little, Orange Theory, Cycle Bars of the world, Club Pilates pop up in kind of your neighborhood shopping center now. So I think that radius is coming tighter. Will somebody drive a half hour for storage? Because I don't feel like they don't go there every day and visit their stuff. It's a one-stop drop and get out, right?
Right. We do have some tenants, usually the commercial tenants, or that will access their stuff every day. For instance, we have pharmaceutical sales reps, and they store all their samples. They come to the unit every day to pick up new samples or whatever. And nationwide, it's a 3 to 5. It's really a 3-mile business, right?
3-mile business.
Focus. We always focus on the demographics within the 3-mile. But in New York City, it could be a 1 or a 2-mile.
Of course.
Whereas we've got some properties that are a little bit more rural in northern Michigan, where we look at it as really like a 10 to 15-mile radius in terms of our competitors, the demographics, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
what's the breakdown, Adam, between commercial and basic residential? And let's define commercial. That could be a contractor who has, tools and a small equipment that's in a garage type unit, like we're building at the Hedges at Hawthorne. Or it could be a lawyer that has, boxes of files, right? Or a doctor of boxes of files, or to your example, samples or brochures for, um, medical sales. So how does that typically break down? Is there data on that? I know you're very data driven.
It's usually 80-20. 80% residential, or customers, and then 20% commercial. But our favorite tenants are commercial tenants, right? They stay the longest. They don't really, they're a lot more willing to absorb rent increases because they're not paying for it. It's usually their company, right? And those are our favorite tenants. I mean, we have one store that's probably 40% commercial tenants, and it's been by far and away our best performing store since we bought it in 2010 or 2011. And I think we probably get the highest rents there in the whole state of Michigan.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Good for you.
Now it was a good deal.
Yeah.
we bought it from, a bank took back the keys on 5 properties. They hired us to manage the facilities.
Sure.
And we were able to buy this essentially for the loan value when it was 95% full and performing. It was great.
Were you like that's kind of like being a receiver, right? Is that what were you appointed
Exactly.
a receiver, or was it more of a management deal? Yeah.
Yeah, It's interesting. I mean, the kind of the history of the company, my dad founded the company in 1987. Okay. He was a multifamily and, just like traditional, broker. And he saw this opportunity as being the only exclusively self-storage and manufactured, or at the time, mobile home park broker in the state. And so he was just brokering properties. And then a couple of years later, a bank took back the keys on a storage facility, and they're like, "Hey, do you manage properties?" He was like, "Sure. Yeah, I definitely manage properties."
For sure.
So that's how we got into the management business. And then, a couple of years later, realized, in the early 90s, in that recession, how cheap this stuff was, and why is he selling it? He should be buying it. So that's kind of like a bit of the history of how our family got into the business.
And when you're and that was my next question. I appreciate that, because I wanted to definitely talk about that, and get a chance to understand a little bit more of that. So when your dad got into it, what was his kind of capital stack? His first couple. Obviously, when you've joined the business now, you've gone out and bought 25 of these things in the past, I forget, 3-4 years. But how was he doing deals? What was his kind of metrics? Was he kind of using family capital? Was he out fundraising from friends and family, golf club buddies, temple buddies, to kind of get the first couple going? What was his strategy when he was excited about expanding this?
Yeah. So the first deal, it was kind of crazy. I mean, I was actually just putting together like historical financials and returns. I think the first deal was maybe $100,000 or $200,000 investment, and I think it was my dad, my mom's dad, so my grandpa, and then one other guy or family who's still invests with us. I spoke to him yesterday. He's been investing with us for almost 35 years. And that was kind of the cap stack on that first deal. And that is now, I think, that same investment is now a 330 unit apartment building in Tucson.
Oh, so did you guys sell it and do a few 1031 exchanges?
Yeah, 2 1031s later, it's now a 300 unit apartment building.
Wow.
Dougie?
We just talked about that.
Dougie, how do you like that,
Dougie?
I
like that.
So on our show, either maybe 2 weeks ago, we really broke down like what is a 1031 exchange, because that is a huge, huge reason we invest in commercial real estate. And for many, it's probably number one. I have this kind of list of 5 to 10 reasons of why our family invests in commercial real estate, and some of them fluctuate, right, and where they go, the reasons. But
real estate
for sure,
is the most tax efficient investment fee. I
That's
mean,
for sure at the top of
it's
anyone's list,
unbelievable.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I broke that down for an hour, really explaining to people what that is. And so I very much, and I know you and I didn't talk about this on our pre-interview, but I appreciate you bringing that up because it helps solidify the concept of this is something that your dad got into. And, you know, I don't use that term. I hate that. I always say, hate that term, fake it till you make it. But when that first group said to your dad, do you manage these? He's like, yeah, I definitely do it. You know, because he had that confidence. He knew he had done multifamily. He knew he could do this, right? And you go for it, and you have to be, as an entrepreneur, comfortable learning on the job a little bit, right, Doug? You don't know everything. I always say babies are born, they know how to cry and they know how to suck. That's it. You got to learn everything else, right? Well, a company is a baby,
And poop,
right?
believe me.
and make, yeah, you got a new baby, so you're always pooping now. Great, just like
Yeah.
my dog Daisy, right? That's another podcast. So, to make a long story short, you look at this 1031, you have a couple $100,000, and now you own a 350 unit multifamily in Phoenix, which is one of the hottest multifamily markets in the country, and you get to defer that tax. And obviously, upon death, we talked about, Adam, the estate and how it gets marked up,
Right.
to the market. So very, very good point. I appreciate you bringing that. Question for you. We talked about the Gen 1, which I appreciate you kind of defining that very long exterior garage. And, to be honest, sometimes they're located next to like a seedy motel. Like it's a little bit of where were they, right? And so I think there was always this kind of negative thought in the mind, or not to say negative, but just a lack of understanding of that's a reputable real estate investment, right? Certainly those shows like Storage Wars and all those things on, I don't know, was that on A&E maybe? Those have certainly brought it more into the limelight. But let's talk about what's the product that you're buying now and what changed. So when these banks came in and you said, lenders kind of said it's okay to have this diversified cash flow, how has the product changed? Because I understand self-storage, as I'm learning it, as this climate controlled, indoor facility. It's got a very nice office where we upsell boxes and packing tape and all that stuff. And we have a manager who wears a polo shirt with a logo on it, and there's a digital reservation system and all that. So let's talk a little bit about how has the product changed, and what are you specifically looking for in an acquisition when you're buying self-storage now?
Sure. So, it's interesting. Those Gen 1 properties, I will say, have been really our best performers over the last, 3-4 years, because the convenience factor of just being able to drive up to your unit and load and unload your stuff. I mean, right now, everybody, like the property you're building in New Jersey is 5th generation, right? Multi-story. Yeah, it's 5th gen. So it's multi-story climate control.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I was telling Dougie. I gave him a couple pictures to bring up about what I'm building. Yeah, go ahead. 5th gen.
So it's 5th generation. It's best in class. Generally these facilities are, pretty close to the urban core. They're in places where it makes sense to build 4 or 5 stories, because obviously it's a lot more expensive to go up than it is to, build a single story facility.
Right.
And generally, that's a function of the land being a lot more expensive in the urban cores, where, given my druthers, I'd still rather buy a 6-acre piece of land and build, single story drive up, because it's still the cheapest and you get pretty much the same rents.
Okay. So you still believe that the drive up product, which clearly is cheaper to build. I mean, I think anybody knows that when you go vertical, that becomes a lot more expensive in terms of your steel, your spans, right? Your concrete pour. I mean, there's a lot going on when you go vertical.
Right.
And the project we're building is 4 stories. Now we've got garages, which is essentially the same thing as you're referring to, the drive up units.
Right.
We have 43 or 48 of those surrounding the perimeter.
Right.
What do you think about that strategy? Do you like that for me?
Absolutely. And those will be your most expensive units by far. Hey, Andy.
Andy. Oh, we know. You know what? I was thinking of Andy the other day, because I said, shit, Andy is actually in that market, in that area. And I didn't think to reach out and say, do you guys know each other? So I didn't know that you guys know each other. That's so funny.
It's another small world thing where
you and I have a lot of
Andy's mother-in-law was my first grade Hebrew teacher.
Oh, Mazel tov. And happy Hanukkah, Andy, and to you too. So okay, so you like the drive up unit. So who's going to rent my drive up units? They're
Those will be your contractors. Those guys that want to access the unit almost every day, or people storing, even like lawn care guys, right? They'll store their mowers and their, whatever, and they'll come pick it up at 6 a.m. every day. So the rule of thumb in the industry is, climate control. And again, this is market to market, but the rule of thumb is that climate control gets like a 30% premium in rent to non-climate, right? And
I hope my dad is watching this. I want him to really learn this. So 30%, I'm taking good notes here. 30% is premium for climate control versus non-climate. Okay.
Right. But what we've seen is that drive up climate control gets a 30% premium to, your non-drive up climate. You see where I'm going? So those drive up
climate control gets a premium of what over drive up non-climate control?
No. So 30% premium climate to non-climate, and then a further 30% premium over the climate to a drive up climate control unit. So I'm sure,
so what if,
those units on.
So 60% if you got the double whammy?
You don't really add them together like that. You start with the. But so you're saying any climate control gets a 30%, even on a 5x5. Well, I mean, you're not going to build
it, right? So the more affluent the community, the bigger the premium. So like we have some stores where our climate control only gets maybe a 10% premium. So, but like if you were to go to a storage conference, they would say 30% would be their number, right? That's probably like a national average. Yeah.
Got it.
And so those exterior units, those 42 or 48 you mentioned,
right?
I'm assuming they'll still be climate control. You'll do an insulated door, and those will get, those will be maybe not your highest rent per foot, because I'm sure they're going to be 10 by 30s. And, a 5x5 is still going to be the, highest rent per foot unit, but you're going to get, big numbers for those.
So in all transparency, I don't know that they're not climate control from the essence of they're not going to have heat, right? You're not, because obviously when you're indoors and you have the units that are 5x5, 5x10, you're walking in a hallway. The exterior drive-ups that we're building, and by the way, Doug, I think there's a photo of one of the drive-up units where I'm kind of like, maybe I'm inside the unit. I'd sent you. It's one of the 2 or 3 photos you had about the top left there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Adam, when you let's say you drive a car in there, right? Mm-hmm. It stops. You can't obviously go into the hallway. So I don't think there's heat going into that unit, to be honest. But you're saying, so how are you defining it, climate control on those outside ones?
Well, I mean, you can build them, in different ways, but it is possible to heat and cool those. And then, the insulated door for those units is it's like $1,000 a door instead of like $400 a door. So it's definitely more expensive, but we just put in a new climate control building with a bunch of those drive up units in our, climate control drive up at our store in Traverse City, Michigan. And, they sold out in I think there were 20 of them. They sold out in 2 weeks. It was unbelievable.
Oh my God. So
yeah,
how do you look? I want everyone to understand the concept of price per foot is somewhat of a new concept for the audience. So when Adam says a 5x5 will get your highest price per foot versus and by the way, the garage units we're building, I think, are 10 by 25. I don't think they're 10 by 30. I'll double check and let you know.
I would have bet it's somewhere between 10 by 20 and 10 by 30. That makes sense.
Yeah, gotcha. Exactly. Okay, perfect. So price by foot has to do with, which really means price per square foot. So when you have something really, really, really small, like a slice of pizza, you're going to pay a lot of money, right? You go to the pizzeria and it's going to be $4 for a slice of pizza. But yet you buy the whole pizza, it's only 16. You're like, oh my God, how could that be? I don't understand. Well, same thing in real estate. You take a little itty bitty space, you pay a very high price per foot. You take a really big daddy space and it's a much less price per foot. So that's what Adam means when he talks about that. So in a self-storage facility, you want to have a mixture, right, of all different types of uses. And we'll talk a little bit about that more with Adam. But Adam, if my garage units are drive up, but let's just say they're not climate controlled, is there still a good premium on them versus a basic 10 by 20 or 10 by 30 that's in basic interior, unit?
Yeah. So, I mean, So this is always like, we always train our managers.
Yeah.
Whatever attribute a unit has, we try to talk it up, right? So
Sure,
obviously the
leave
drive up units, you talk up the convenience. The
Sure.
upstairs units, we say, oh, those ones are safer, right?
Gotcha.
So whatever they're selling, they're trained to kind of like talk up the attribute of that particular unit type. So your manager will say, those exterior units, they're the most convenient. You drive right up. The other ones, if they're climate control, they'll talk up the climate control, and then the safety of being, on the upper floors and going up the elevator and all that stuff. So
Absolutely. Very cool.
yeah,
Very cool.
and there'll be, one of the tricks so one thing that's always kind of interesting is if you only have climate control, it's sometimes a little bit more challenging to get that climate control premium, because a tenant comes in the door, they look you up online, they're like, oh, this 10 by 10 is $100. They come in the door for that $100 unit, and then the manager is like, well, I can give you a climate control unit for $130, right? But if you only have climate control and you're priced at $130, if the guy down the street has non-climate for $100, that tenant might go to your competitor down the street. So one thing to think about that is a trick that my old COO who just left the company used to play was, he was like, yeah, just don't turn the heat on for one of your 4 floors. Right? And you can price those at a discount, so you can still get your tenants in the door
and you can save money on your expenses.
Exactly.
Right? Who doesn't like to save money? $1 saved is $1 earned, Dougie.
Absolutely.
Put that in the bank.
Yeah. Make
Right?
a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Put that on a shirt. All right. Used to be a penny saved as a penny earned, but with inflation now it's $1 saved, $1 earned. That's funny. That's funny. Adam, let's talk about tech a little bit, because I know you're very tech oriented and data. You've got the best Bose digital headphones we were talking about with 4 mics in there, right? Where do you see the industry going? I know I told you about this Janus Noki product we're going to test. Where do you think the industry's going in terms of tech? And what are you excited about? What are you adopting and testing now?
Yeah, so it's so funny. I mean, you go to these conferences now, and some guy will get up on stage and be like, self-storage isn't real estate anymore. It's a technology business. It's like, all right, guys, hold your horses. It's still like nuts and bolts real estate. But everybody now, I mean, nobody rented online, or not nobody. None of the REITs rented online. All of a sudden, pandemic hits. Everybody does. Launches the ability to rent online. We were fortunate that we were going that direction anyway. We launched our rent online product March 12th, 2020. So that was, very convenient timing for the pandemic when, we closed down our offices. People didn't want to interact with other people. So there's that. There's the Noki product you mentioned where, people can open up their units with, Bluetooth on their phone as opposed to needing a lock. Although I do like, $17 locks being required to purchase for every new lease signed. So that's always, the merchandise is always a fun moneymaker. So that's something we've been like wrestling with.
You're shifting the revenue, right? You're trying to, can you get a couple more dollars on your unit, but now you can't upsell the overpriced lock, right? Okay, gotcha.
Not overpriced, reasonably priced.
That's reasonable.
It's funny, speaking of inflation, we just got hit with a price increase on all of our merchandise. So, unfortunately, we've got to pass this on to the consumer. So we actually just, had a meeting to, raise our prices because we kind of have to. So there's a lot of, there's interesting things right now where your Bluetooth, your storage facility has an app, and instead of having to remember your gate code and all that kind of stuff, you've got an app, you just wave it at the DigiGate or PTI gate system or, whose ever system, and, the gate opens right up. So there's a lot of ways that the storage industry is going in that direction. And, 5 years ago, I would have said that you're still going to be getting 60% of your tenants from drive-bys.
Yes.
And now it's really, shifting towards Google, right? It was kind of this crazy thing where you look at budgets from 15, 20 years ago. We used to spend like $20,000 a year per property on Yellow Page ads.
Oh my God.
Right. And you look back at these budgets and
yeah.
and then when everything shifted to
I
And then when
mean,
things shifted, sorry.
we could definitely, for that amount of money on, social media, Facebook, Instagram, you'd be, worldwide. But yeah, because marketing evolves.
Yeah.
It was a great investment back in the day, and now
It's
it's changed a little bit.
So Adam, where are you spending the money now? Is there like an apartments.com for self-storage?
So it's interesting. So, 5, 10 years ago, it was like, oh my God, the internet's the greatest thing in the world. We're saving all this money. We're getting all of our tenants. And it was really all organic search. And then over the last 3-4 years, it's been like an arms race on paid search, right? So spending money on Google AdWords, pay-per-click, Facebook, a lot of these. And so all of a sudden our marketing budget has like crept back up. Still not as high as the Yellow Page ads, but it's definitely creeping up there.
But the nice thing about that is you can play with that and adjust it. Like during your lease up phase, you can go lights out, put as much money into that, and you can tell Google and Facebook and Instagram very fast, now that I'm full, pull it back. Let's lower our thresholds. So, it's tough when you have traditional media and you've got long buyouts and you got a billboard or you've got an ad that takes a lot of time to design or an expensive commercial, whatever it may be, something in the print. So there is a big advantage to that though, too.
Definitely. I mean, it's interesting. Everybody was so full this year, record occupancies, not just for us, but for, all the REITs and all that stuff. We spent a lot less money on advertising because we were full.
Sure.
And, as you mentioned, apartments.com, there is an aggregator in the storage business. They're kind of like the villain of the industry because nobody likes paying them for tenants, right? But they're called Sparefoot. And a lot of groups, we talk to our marketing company and they'll be like, don't put anything on Sparefoot. You're just hurting your brand, right? Yeah. So it's like we go back and forth on how much we use them and rely on them for tenants, but they bring in a lot of renters for us at certain properties.
Absolutely.
So
Adam, how long does it take? So let's, we can use my CubeSmart property as an example. I think we're going to be 967 units. About half of those units are, I would say 5x10 or 5x5. So they're like sub $200, probably roughly. Again, don't quote me on this, anybody, just rough. And then of course you have the 40 to 50 drive up units, which by the way, I think some people will rent those for cars, like for an extra car that they go to Florida or whatever. Right. So what would be typical in terms of the lease up time? How long is there a certain amount of units that you budget? Do you rent 10 a month? Do you rent 50 a month? Help me understand that metrics a little bit better.
Yeah. So this is something that to this day, my dad doesn't fully understand. I don't fully it's kind of like we have some properties that do 20 rentals a week. And then we have some properties that do 3 a week. And we can't necessarily tell you why one gets so much more traffic than the other.
Sure.
But the one that's renting 20 units a week will probably have 20 move-ins, 17 move-outs. And the one that rents 3 a week will have like 3 in, 1 out, 3 in, 2 out. So as we were chatting about yesterday, so for the first 6 months, you're going to be renting, 3% a month, 3-4% a month, if things are going well, if it's a strong market. And then 6 months in, your median storage tenant stays somewhere between, 7 to 9 months. And so after, 6 months, you're going to start to get those move outs because there are the people that just, needed to store some stuff while they renovated their kitchen or whatever. Sure. Right. So that's a 3-4 month project. So you're going to start to get that churn. And then your lease up might slow from 3% a month to, 2.5% a month, just because you are getting those move outs. And, hopefully you hit that 85, 90% range, 3 years in, something like that. But your facility, we always say it might take 3 years to fill up this facility, but it really takes 5 years to stabilize. Because your best tenants are your hoarders, right?
Yeah.
We have 25 to 30% of our tenants, company wide have been renting from us for, 3, 4, 5 years or longer.
What percentage was that?
Like 25 to 30, it ranges depending on the store.
Great.
And those are the people those guys are your rock.
Yep.
And they really reduce the churn. And 5 years in, you're going to pick enough of those guys up where that's when you can really start kind of, pushing rates and really, not having as much, in and out at the store.
Absolutely. So do you want to tell everyone what's the big secret to the self-storage business and industry? Why do you really love it so much? Just give me that little cherry on top. I know you've been holding it back for me.
I thought you were going to ask me the big secret to storage I don't want your average tenant to know. Because we always joke that our biggest competitor is the dumpster, right? So, I mean, it's just a great business. And I think the beauty of it and what people always talk about is you don't have that many, from a personnel perspective, you can run a, 120,000 foot facility with 2 employees. And there's very little CapEx. It's not like an office building where every 5 years you have to go, build out somebody, new space.
Gotcha.
Once you build it, you're going to replace your roof in 25 years and do some elevator maintenance, and that's kind of it. So it's once you're built, it's not very capital intensive, which is really what makes it such a great asset to invest in.
I think it's a real efficient business, right? In every way, right? The way you build it, the panels, the way things are laid out, it's very efficient. It's everything is just copy paste. And the fact that you don't, you need 2 employees, like you said, you're walking down the hallway and the lights can turn on as you're walking. So you're going to save on electricity. You can track, obviously if you're using the Bluetooth and some type of system, hey, are people coming more at midnight? Are they coming at 7 a.m? So you can change the utilities in terms of more heat, less heat. There's a lot of things. And then the other cool thing on the development side is you don't need as many parking spaces for self-storage versus like an apartment complex or a shopping center. And that's huge. That means you can develop more square footage per acre than a different type of real estate. And when the more you can build, the more money you can make. So that's one of the big secrets that I think people don't really understand with self-storage. And it doesn't put as much of a burden on the community, right? You don't have people going in and out constantly like a grocery store. People come, they bring their stuff. Sometimes they do come in and out, like you said, for some contractors, but the hoarders and a lot of the people do leave it there because they're longer term tenants. So that's what we love about the industry.
Right. You mentioned the parking spaces, and this is a way that municipalities have gotten smarter. I mean, we built a store in 1999. It was the first multi-story facility in the state of Michigan. The city required us to put in, I think we have 60 parking spots.
Oh my God.
Right. I mean, we rent out 53 of them. Right. But so municipalities have gotten smarter. They have, storage used to be like a dirty word at a city council meeting. People, cities and municipalities, they used to hate it. And now that people understand it more and realize that it's actually really an amenity for their constituents, they're much more likely to approve it now than they were, 20, 25 years ago.
Right. I mean, that's awesome. Listen, storage is clearly an amenity if you live in a great town and to have that. But also, storage doesn't add kids to your school system, right? I've got a huge referendum that's hitting where I live now for $20-30 million they want to spend on the schools. And I'm in favor of it because my kids are in the school age at this juncture. But, storage is not going to put more kids into your school. It's not going to make the highway busier, the road busier, whatever it is, because people are barely visiting their stuff, as we spoke about. So I think it's an incredible investment. Dougie, are you looking to invest in storage because, or maybe someone you're free to reach out to Adam. Adam, how can people, we should have done this earlier. If somebody wants to connect with you, or potentially if they're an accredited investor or wants to think about investing in deals with you, just getting to know your family, what's the best way they should reach out to you? Is it through the website or LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn or the website. Our company's website is pogodaco.com. So pogodaco.com. And shoot me a message on LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to chat with people about storage and what we're working on.
You do have, when you do deals, you have outside investors still with like a GPLP?
We do, yeah. We generally syndicate 50 to 75% of the equity, and we've got a great group of investors. And recently, unfortunately, I've had I've had more demand for my investors than I've had, good deals to put them in, because, things are unbelievably expensive right now, and it is hard to find a deal that pencils. So.
Absolutely. All right. So now we're going to go to our lightning round. All right. I'm going to get Dougie ready.
I'm ready.
So have a little fun with this, Adam. Take it with a grain of salt. It's not meant to be super serious, but at the end of every show, we do ask all our guests the same 4 questions, and we'll put you on the spot. And just the first thing that pops into your head. Again, it's light, it's fun, and we'll see where it goes. Okay. Are you ready?
All right. Let's do it.
All right. What's a business book you'd recommend to the audience?
Oh, I don't read business books. Sorry about that.
All right. No problem. We'll skip that one. Okay. Here's another one. If you follow me on, and I know you haven't followed me yet on Instagram, but if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I post vanity plates I always take pictures of people's funny license plates. If I forced you to have a vanity plate on your car, Adam, what do you think you'd want to put on there?
Oh, it's funny. I've been thinking about this recently because I just ordered a new Bronco. It's hopefully coming in a couple weeks. I don't know. Storage prints.
Okay.
My dad wanted to do Storage King, and he actually ended up with Mr. Store.
So your dad has Mr. Store. I love it. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. This is a Ted Lasso question. First concert, best concert.
First concert, Bob Dylan. I saw him at, I think, the Royal Oak Music Hall when I was like 8. First, my dad had to explain to me what a joint was, so that was real fun. Best concert. Ooh. I saw the War on Drugs at Radio City 5-6 years ago, and it was unbelievable. Those guys are awesome. Yeah.
All right. Last question. What's a goal that you want me to remind you of 1 year from now?
Still like to be pushing towards that 100 properties. We're at 60 now, trying to get to 100. Yeah.
That will be awesome. We will definitely celebrate that. All right. That's it. You survived the lightning round. You'll get back to me on the business book. Maybe it was Good to Great. Maybe it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Or maybe there's a storage. If there's a storage book you recommend of somebody getting into the business, you can certainly let us know also.
Sure. I own both of those books. I just haven't read them.
He read them. He said he owns them, but he never read them.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you can always put the clip notes underneath your pillow and see if that, that way you'll absorb it a lot quicker. That was my strategy in high school. All right, everyone, this is great. I'm glad we were able to spend so much time with a real incredible asset in the self-storage business. Adam and his family have been since 1987, and they're continuing to grow and thrive in this industry. And it's great to meet another kind of second or third generation family biz. And Adam, if there's anything I can ever do to help you, I can't teach you anything about the storage business, but any questions about retail, about multifamily, mixed use, development, happy to share best practices on, syndication, of course, and all those things that we all kind of do. And just very, very thankful, and hope our audience will reach out to you. If they have any questions, I think it was PogodaCo.com was the website. Was that it?
Yep. And we also have his Instagram right here. So.
Oh, bam. There he is. So you can send him a DM. Slide into the DMs, as the millennials say.
Nice.
All right. And we'll say goodbye to Adam and wish him a wonderful weekend. All right. Enjoy the
awesome, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Adam. Talk to you soon.
Have a good one, guys.
You got it.
Nice.
I hope you learned something, Dougie.
Every episode I do.
I'm here to give. This is the great American give back. Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
And I just want to really be able to share friends and business associates that have done business with us or that we know through other contacts, and help educate you, the audience, on what else is out there, whether it's a side hustle you're doing, whether you're starting a big business, whether you're investing in real estate. You're not by yourself. And you can absolutely learn something from those who have already done it and been doing it for years.
And we are live. So at any point, people can put a question in the comment section. We can answer live, or you could email you at getupwithgarrett@gmail.com.
There it is. Send the emails in and send the questions in. We will answer them as long as they're appropriate. We will answer them live. Once in a while, we get something a little funky, but we'll answer those live. So I just want to wrap up real quick.
Yeah.
I want to remind the audience that we love to give you some great football picks, but probably remind the audience that maybe you shouldn't put too much money on these picks. $5 here, $10 here, maybe 5 Roblox or something, because we're not doing so good.
We're not doing so
And
good.
last week you went
man.
0 for 3 with a big
man.
donut.
Donut
Man. For Dougie.
Donut for Doug.
I went 1 out of 3, which is not impressive at all. So real quick, let's just knock these out.
All right.
This week we've got the Saints giving 5 at the Jets. Right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? Saints giving 5 at the Jets. I'm taking the Saints.
All right. Well, that's going to be the one we disagree on. So
okay,
I'll take the Jets. The Saints are playing like garbage too.
Yeah.
I think they're equal.
Garbage versus garbage.
Garbage versus garbage. Okay. Garbage versus trash. Who will win?
You got it. All right. Now I'm gonna plug in the New York Giants.
Okay.
Because they had a disappointing loss in Miami, but it was kind of tight, and I thought they're gonna win that game. So the Giants are getting 10.5, and they're going all the way to California. It's a huge trip to play the Chargers.
Ooh.
Giants getting 10.5, and I like that 10.5 because you never know, that late field goal. Yeah, kind of keeps it at 9 or 10 or whatever. So I'm going to take the Giants. You want to stay with me?
Yeah, okay, I'm definitely. The Chargers kind of play to their competition.
Yes, they play up, they play down. You're right. And then
so
the last
be a close game.
Okay, cool. The last game we're going to pick is the Jaguars, right? Not a sexy one, but the Jaguars are +9 at the Titans, right?
Okay.
Derrick Henry's still out for the season, so we know maybe the playoffs. I don't know, but do you think the Titans can kind of these games, like these division games, they play each other a lot, you know, and then they know each other. So what do you think? Do you think the Jags can keep this close and respectable?
The 9. I'll take the Jags with the 9.
Okay, I'll take the Titans.
All right,
that's fine. I'll take. Yeah, so Doug's got the Jags. Okay. Again, keep your bets very small, please. Just want to mention that. All right. So want to thank everyone for getting up with Garrett this Friday. And sorry for the change of date, but we'll be back next Thursday. We've got a special guest who will be talking about how to start a side hustle business in the street art world as well.
Wow.
Big marketing guy coming in. Nice. And who's going to share some stories about that and also help us with branding and marketing about our own podcast, or if you're thinking of starting, you know, something else on your own. Yeah. So tune in next week for that, and hope everyone has a great weekend, and shoot us a note if you have any questions. We'll see you soon. We're out of here.